We're going to start out with a golf metaphor, and I'm kind of throwing a warning out at you because I'm going to get pretty deep into the metaphor, but I want you to bear with me because it hopefully will make sense why I'm going along those lines. Also, I'm fully aware that there might be plenty of people on the phone that don't know anything about golf. I'm going to explain the metaphor as though you don't need any knowledge or interest in golf to understand the direction we're going. But let's start out and talk about the different clubs in a bag of golf clubs. I have here some of the main clubs, not every club, but you have a driver, and at the other end you have your putter. And again, I know that if you've never played golf, that might not mean anything to you. So to explain a little bit about those different clubs, the difference in each club is that each club hits the ball a different amount of distance. And on one end of the spectrum, you have clubs like your driver that hit the ball very far. So you have a lot of distance capability, but the accuracy is very small. So if you need the ball to land or end up in a very small area, the driver is not going to be the best club, even if you are a very proficient golfer, because the strength of the club is the distance. And as you go through these different clubs, you start to move along a spectrum. And at the other end of the spectrum is the putter, which is sort of the opposite of the driver. Its strength is the accuracy. So if you need the ball to end up in a very small area, such as a round hole in the ground, the putter is going to be the most accurate thing to do, but the weakness is the distance. So in order to play a round of golf, which would be a long distance of yardage for you to cover and a lot of different holes to complete, you would want to use a mixture of all these clubs in different situations. Now, I bring that up because we're here to talk about if cold calling works. And so you kind of have a similar bag of tools, similar to a bag of golf clubs. And so just to go through some of these, you have at the top end of the spectrum is search engine optimization, SEO, which is basically driving traffic to your website. And then going down the list of tools, content marketing, social media marketing, email marketing, pay-per-click advertising, social media prospecting, events and networking, email prospecting, phone prospecting down there at the bottom. Now, I do want to point out that I put phone prospecting there as actually a replacement for the label of cold calling. And that's actually one suggestion that I'd make just sort of out of the gate is let's stop talking about cold calling. And I also cringe when I hear the word telemarketing. Let's call it phone prospecting. Because what we're trying to do is we're ultimately trying to communicate with prospects and customers, and we have a lot of different tools to use to communicate to them. Those tools are listed out here, and some of them are web and social media and email. So let's label it as phone prospecting because we're using the phone to connect with our prospect along with using other stuff. And forget about cold calling, because sometimes we call someone and maybe it's not cold because we've warmed them up in some way or another. So let's not worry about whether it's warm calling or cold calling. It's just phone prospecting. And so you have this mixture here. Now, like I said, I have a lot of clients that will come to me and they'll ask, does cold calling work? And the thing is that they want to their strategy is to only use cold calling. And what I will often say to them is, it works, but I would not only do cold calling or phone prospecting. You want to do other stuff. These tools actually line up exactly with the golf clubs in that SEO and search engine optimization is like your driver in terms of it's going to get you the longest distance, and it's not distance in yards, it's actually the reach in people. So if you do search engine optimization correctly, you can drive a large number of people to your website. But from an accuracy standpoint, you're going to get a very wide range of people. Some of the people don't fit at all. So the accuracy is very limited. But that's going to get a lot of people into your funnel. And as you go through this, let's skip down a few. Email marketing. So email marketing, you start to get a little bit better accuracy, but you still might end up with a bunch of people on your list that aren't qualified or don't fit at all. But you still have a lot of reach in terms of reaching a lot of people very efficiently. And your accuracy is improving, but it's still not incredibly accurate. And then down at the bottom, like the equivalent of the putter, is the phone prospecting. It's extremely accurate in that it's one-to-one communication. You know who you're calling, you know who they are typically, you might know have some information about them, and when you talk to them, you have this really accurate, I don't know if accurate is the right word, but this really connected personal conversation. So that's similar to the putter in that you don't hit the ball a long way, but it's very accurate. So phone prospecting, you're not able to reach a whole lot of people out all at once, but the people that you do call or the people that you do talk to, you can have a very accurate, very focused conversation. So just want to make that connection that all these tools follow along the same spectrum. Now I want to point that out because now I want to go back to the golf metaphor and let's look at what a normal round of golf would be in terms of how you might use those golf clubs. So here's that same list, and the numbers here are how many times I might swing and you hit the ball with that golf club. And for like an average to fairly good golfer, they might hit the ball 82 times. And you'll notice they're hitting the putter 25 times. The putter is actually the club that they're hitting the most, but they're also using all these other clubs to get a lot accomplished. And so, and a round of golf for that, let's say, fairly good golfer, it might take 4 hours. And bear with me here. The reason why I point that out is that if you try to cover that same distance and only used a putter, you would have to hit the putter 500 times because you're only hitting the ball a short distance. And because you're hitting the ball so much, it might take you 8 hours what would take you 4 hours when you used your full mix of tools. And then if you look at it at the other extreme, let's say we use all the other clubs but we don't use the putter. So we're using, let's say, our pitching wedge to hit the ball into the hole. And I apologize if I'm getting into too deep of the metaphor, but the point here is that if we don't use the putter, we end up hitting the ball 152 times, so almost double the amount of times that we do with using the full bag of golf clubs, and we're having to work an extra hour. The message here is that if you think about that back to your sales and marketing tools, if we don't do those other things and we only did cold calling, we're going to have to work twice as hard to get the same amount of results. And that's where you end up with this feeling like cold calling isn't working. I'm wasting my time, I'm spinning my wheels, I'm running in place, and that's very understandable. And then you have people on the other end of the spectrum who think that cold calling is a waste of time and is dead, and they try to sell over email and over social media and only do internet marketing and whatnot. And so they're not using their putter. What happens is they're ending up maybe with the same amount of sales, but they're actually having to work twice as hard. And my first sales job, someone told me you don't sell over email. You have to pick up the phone to actually close the sale. You can really be efficient by communicating over email, but at some point you have to pick up the phone. And I think that's a good example here is that, sure, if we only use email and whatnot, we can get there. But at the end of the day, if you're not picking up the phone, you're going to maybe be working twice as hard. The point is that yes, there is a time and place to pick up the phone, and the phone should be part of our mix. It should not be the only thing, and we should not do everything else and then just skip the phone.